A grainy video reel started circulating through Hollywood offices in 2003, and the footage showed a wiry Thai man doing things that seemed to defy physics. One clip had him leaping over a moving car, another showed him diving through a ring of barbed wire without a scratch, and a third captured him fighting multiple opponents while his own pants were literally on fire. Here's the part that made executives sit up in their chairs. No wires, no CGI, no camera tricks. Just a human being pushing his body to limits that most stuntmen wouldn't dare attempt with a full safety team behind them. The man in that footage was Tony Jaa, and within months of the world seeing what he could do, the martial arts film industry turned on its head. Critics called him the next Bruce Lee, while fans compared him to a young Jackie Chan. And the legendary Golden Harvest studio came calling because they were the company that had built Lee and Chan into global icons. Everything pointed toward Jaa becoming the biggest action star of his generation. But someone had other plans for him. A contract was already in place, and a cage was already being built, because the people who owned Tony Jaa had no intention of letting Hollywood take him. This is the story of the most gifted martial artist to ever grace the screen, and how a combination of exploitation, mental collapse, and industry indifference turned what should have been a legendary career into a cautionary tale about what happens when the system decides your talent belongs to them. Understanding Tony Jaa means understanding where he came from. Born Thachakorn Yiram on February 5th, 1976, he grew up in rural Surin province in northeastern Thailand, where his parents worked as elephant herders, part of the Kui ethnic group that had been handling elephants for generations. Entertainment meant gathering at temple fairs to watch movies projected onto bedsheets hung between trees, and that's where young Thachakorn discovered Bruce Lee, Jackie Chan, and Jet Li. Something clicked in his mind, and he became obsessed with doing what they did. What made Jaa different from every other kid who watched kung fu movies and dreamed of glory was simple. He didn't realize his heroes were using wires and mats. Nobody told him the flying kicks and impossible acrobatics required special equipment, which meant he trained himself to do everything for real. Practice sessions happened in his father's rice paddy, where he would throw himself through the air, land on hard ground, get up, and repeat the process until his body could perform what he thought was normal. Muay Thai training began at the local temple when he was 10 years old, and by his teenage years, he had compiled a professional fighting record of 5 wins and 0 losses. The elephants of his childhood would never leave him, and to this day, he owns 2 elephants and insists on featuring them in nearly every film he makes. Elephants are like gods, not animals, he has said. They are our angels. That spiritual connection to his roots would later become both his salvation and his curse. The turning point came when Jaa saw a 1984 Thai action film called Born to Fight, directed by a man named Pana Rittikrai. This was a filmmaker who ran a ragtag stunt team that performed without the safety measures Western productions took for granted, and his films played in the provinces for audiences of taxi drivers and laborers. Rittikrai saw something special in the young Jaa and took him under his wing, which began a 14-year apprenticeship in the shadows of the Thai film industry. During that time, Jaa doubled for Robin Shou in Mortal Kombat, Annihilation, performed a legendary stunt for Sammo Hung, and appeared in dozens of low-budget films that never found an audience beyond Thailand's working class. Those 14 years included an obsession that would change everything. Jaa and Rittikrai developed a fascination with Muay Boran, the ancient predecessor to modern Muay Thai, and they scraped together every bot they could find to buy leftover film stock and create a demo reel showcasing what Jaa could do. They showed that reel to producer-director Prachia Pinkai-yu, and what happened next changed martial arts cinema forever. But it also set in motion a trap that would take Tony Jaa over a decade to escape. Ong-Bak, Muay Thai Warrior exploded into theaters in 2003, and nothing in the genre would be the same again. The plot was simple enough, with a village boy traveling to Bangkok to retrieve a stolen Buddha head and beating down anyone in his way, but the execution was revolutionary. No CGI appeared anywhere in the film, no wires supported any of the performers, and no stunt doubles stood in for the star. Just Tony Jaa's body doing things audiences had never seen outside of video games, and the film showed each stunt from multiple angles to prove it wasn't trickery. The fire stunt became legendary because Jaa fought multiple opponents while his trousers were actually burning. "I got burned," he admitted to interviewers. "The flames spread upwards very fast and burnt my eyebrows, my eyelashes, and my nose." Ligament damage and a badly sprained ankle added to his injury list during production, but he kept going through every take. Golden Harvest took notice of the finished product, international audiences went wild, and 2 years later, Tom Yum Goong became the most successful Thai film ever released in American theaters, featuring what many consider the greatest single-take action sequence ever filmed, 4 minutes following Jaa up a spiral staircase as he defeats roughly 50 opponents without a visible cut. Jackie Chan himself took notice of this new star. Chan personally lobbied director Brett Ratner to cast Jaa in Rush Hour 3, calling him the most well-rounded of all action stars. But Jaa couldn't accept the role, and the reason had nothing to do with his schedule or his interest. The reason was that he wasn't allowed to accept it, because while the world was just discovering Tony Jaa, someone already owned him. Here's what fans didn't know during Jaa's meteoric rise. Back in 2003, young and inexperienced, he had signed a 10-year exclusive contract with Saha-Mongkol Film International. And the terms were staggering in their one-sidedness. $1,600 per month was his salary, and in exchange, Saha-Mongkol owned him completely. Every film offer, every international opportunity, every chance to work with Hollywood had to go through them first. And Saha-Mongkol had no interest in sharing their star with anyone. When Jackie Chan requested Jaa for Rush Hour 3, Saha-Mongkol blocked it. When other Hollywood offers came in, Saha-Mongkol refused them. The studio kept their roster closed because they preferred controlling their stars to watching them succeed internationally. Tony Jaa was generating millions for the company while remaining what amounted to a well-paid prisoner, watching opportunity after opportunity disappear because someone else held his leash. This context matters for what happened next. When Tony Jaa finally tried to take control of his own career, the pressure that had been building for years exploded in the most public and devastating way possible. Success brought pressure, and pressure brought dangerous ambition. Jaa idolized Jackie Chan not just for his martial arts, but for his work behind the camera, and for Ong-Bak too, he insisted on writing, directing, producing, choreographing, and starring in the film all by himself. Prachia Pinkayu warned him not to take on so much responsibility at once, but Jaa dismissed the concerns and pushed forward anyway. The resulting production became one of the most infamous disasters in action movie history. Budget figures tell part of the story. The original allocation was 100 million baht, and the final cost ballooned to 300 million baht after endless delays stretched the shoot into chaos. And that's when the rumors started circulating from the set. Accounts vary, and some details may be exaggerated, but everyone involved agrees that something had gone badly wrong with the production and its star. Reports circulated about increasingly erratic behavior, elaborate rituals before filming, a man who seemed to be losing his grip on reality under the weight of responsibilities he had demanded for himself. July 2008 brought the crisis to a head when Tony Jaa vanished completely. His producer couldn't reach him for nearly 2 months while the production sat frozen, and the Weinstein Company canceled their distribution contract over the delays. Damage estimates reached 250 million baht, and Jaa's own father went to police claiming his son was being followed by mysterious men. When Jaa finally resurfaced, it was on Thai television, and the man audience saw bore no resemblance to the confident action hero they knew. Tears streamed down his face as he explained that he'd spent the missing weeks in a forest monastery seeking spiritual peace, that he'd gone bankrupt paying the crew from his own pocket, that his utilities had been cut off because he had nothing left. Panaritikrai was brought in to salvage the production, and the footage got split into 2 separate films just to recover something from the wreckage. When Ong-Bak 3 finally released in 2010, Jaa walked away from filmmaking entirely and entered a Buddhist monastery in Surin. The man who had seemed invincible was broken, and the contract that imprisoned him still had years left to run. When the 10-year term finally expired in 2013, Jaa believed he was free. Saha-Mongkol disagreed, citing an automatic renewal clause they claimed was part of the original agreement. According to Jaa's representatives, the studio sent a renewal notice not to Jaa himself, but to his estranged sister back in Surin, who signed the document without understanding what it meant. Ownership until 2023 was what Saha-Mongkol now claimed. The dispute exploded into public view when Jaa announced he was joining the cast of Fast and Furious 7 without seeking permission from the studio first. Saha-Mongkol responded with threats of a $50 million lawsuit, and days before the film's Thai premiere, they obtained a court injunction blocking its release in the country. Over 20,000 Thai fans joined a Facebook campaign demanding the court overturn the ban, and the injunction was eventually lifted so Furious 7 could open. But the message from Saha-Mongkol was unmistakable. Even after a decade of service, even after generating millions in revenue for the studio, even after a mental breakdown that had played out on national television, they would rather burn everything down than let Tony Jaa succeed on his own terms. 2015 finally brought the end of the legal battle when Saha-Mongkol withdrew their case. Tony Jaa was free at last, but he was also 39 years old and his prime years were already gone. Freedom came, but Hollywood still didn't know what to do with him, and this is where Tony Jaa's story diverges most painfully from his heroes. Jackie Chan came to Hollywood and entire franchises were built around him. Jet Li got leading roles in films like Romeo Must Die and Unleashed. Donnie Yen eventually landed a role in Rogue One. These men received the chance to show American audiences what they could do. Tony Jaa got henchman roles. Furious 7 cast him as a villain's enforcer with minimal dialogue. X, Return of Xander Cage gave him another supporting part. Triple Threat paired him with Iko Uwais and Tiger Chen in what should have been a martial arts fan's dream, but the film barely received theatrical release. The Expendables 4 brought him into that franchise just in time for it to collapse, with the film bringing in $51 million against a $100 million budget. The language barrier posed a real obstacle because Jaa didn't speak English until his mid-30s. Acting and conveying emotion in English is something I need to practice, he admitted in interviews during this period. But plenty of martial arts stars have overcome language barriers when studios believed in them enough to provide support and build vehicles for their talents. The difference with Jaa was that no studio believed in him that way. Nobody built a film around Tony Jaa, nobody gave him the vehicle that could have made him a household name in America. They just kept casting him as the guy who gets beaten by the actual star. July 2014 brought the death of Panaritti at 53 years old. Liver disease, kidney failure, and a brain tumor had claimed the man who discovered Jaa, trained him for 14 years, and saved Ong-Bak too, when Jaa couldn't finish it himself. Without Rittikrai, Jaa lost his creative anchor in Thailand, and the mentor who had seen something special in a kid from Surin province who had spent 3 decades building Thai action cinema from nothing would never see his protege get the career he deserved. Tony Jaa is 48 years old today. Marriage came in 2012, and he has 2 daughters. But the Martial Arts History Museum inducted him into their Hall of Fame in 2017, and his films have grossed over $2.7 billion worldwide throughout his career. Recent work includes streaming films for Chinese platforms, and he remains active in the industry. But let's be clear about what happened here. A generational talent got locked into a predatory contract at the exact moment of his breakthrough. That contract blocked opportunity after opportunity, including a direct request from Jackie Chan himself to appear in Rush Hour 3. When the pressure of that imprisonment combined with the demands of an impossible production schedule, he suffered a mental breakdown that played out on national television for everyone to see. When he tried to escape, his own studio attempted to sabotage his Hollywood debut. And when he finally got free, he received supporting roles while less talented performers got the spotlight. The obstacles that held Tony Jaa back weren't acts of God. They were choices made by people who valued control over success, people who would rather own a diminished star than watch a free one reach his potential. Tony Jaa grew up with elephants. He sees them as sacred, as angels, and he's dedicated much of his life to their protection. A bitter irony runs through that connection because Hollywood treated Jaa himself like a performing elephant, a spectacular creature to be paraded out for a few tricks before being led back to its cage. The industry never figured out how to let him run free, or maybe they just never wanted to. His films will endure for generations. When people want to see what the human body is truly capable of, they'll watch Ong-Bak and marvel at the staircase sequence in The Protector. They'll watch a man who set himself on fire for his art, who taught himself to fly because nobody told him it was supposed to be impossible, but they'll also know what was taken from him and who took it. Saham and Cole Film International took his prime years. Hollywood's casting directors took his shot at leading roles. An entire industry saw a legend and decided he was worth more as a supporting player than a star. Tony Jaa gave everything he had to martial arts cinema. The people who controlled his career gave him a cage and called it gratitude. That's not a tragedy, that's a theft.